I'm really happy that you guys are all here because we are going to talk about, I guess some of you have got to work on those forms. Some probably have not, but I know you've probably taken a lot of notes, and we're on day 3 of this 4 days that we're working on our mindset. And today what I really want to talk about is the fixed mindset. And I know I've heard Chuck talk about it before versus, our 2 mindsets that we can have, right? Our growth and our fixed mindset. Because our mindset holds us back. Because you know why we end up with a fixed mindset? I got somebody else trying to come in. The reason why we end up with a fixed mindset is, do you know that what we were told as children we believe? So what did you learn when you were growing up? That's and your mindset is the difference between success and failure.
I think
so. Let's look at our mindset when you're trying to do something new or adapt. What?
One mindset that I got stuck with as a child that I'm working on is that you have to be productive to be successful. So one thing was like, you have to be always working, always doing, always striving to be the best in order to consider yourself successful. And so I'm breaking that mindset because I have been a stay-at-home mom for the last 8 years, and that doesn't necessarily feel successful all the time because I'm not bringing in money or I'm not doing something that fulfills me. And so I have had to adjust my mindset that just because I'm not producing doesn't mean I'm not successful.
Okay, so what does success let's talk about that real quick. What does success look like to you?
Well, I'm changing that mindset. And so success for me in this current season looks like a balance of contributing to my family, of being the house manager, and of having something that feels like my own that I'm working towards bettering. So, that I'm doing that with my business and with my networking and with my groups. And so success looks like a balance of those things to me, so that I feel fulfilled and like I'm progressing as a person in a business, but that I'm also contributing and being there for my family.
You say that. I was where you were 20 years ago. Do you get that? I had a 6 and 8-year-old. I had little ones, and I had a husband. And I don't like it when people say you're just a stay-at-home mom. Are you serious? Are you being successful? I have 4 amazing children. I have a good marriage. I'd like to have a great marriage. I have a good marriage. The reason why I say it's good is because my marriage can improve, right? It's not great. I'm still working for it to be great. And I got 4 I do have 4 great kids. Only problem I have with kids is that they don't do life the way I think they should. But if you met them, you would be like, these guys are productive, awesome human beings that are kind, that are nice. So what are you trying to, if you write down in your relationship part, in 20 years or in 10 years, what do you want your kids to be? That will be success. Danica. And what I don't like is when people tell me, and I felt the same way. And why as women do we think house managing, worrying about children, and even men have this thing, because he's even helping out with grandkids right now. And I know Chuck has his own, and I'm not saying men don't have it either. But part of the success is, are these kids going to be okay? Are they going to, what is your legacy? When you die, what do you want? So it's more than just our business and being productive. And I'm glad that you're changing that mindset of, sometimes we think busy is productive. I will hear people walk around telling me how busy they are. So now they think they're important. And I'm like, really? So you're running around like a hamster in a wheel and you have no target, no objective, and you're busy all the time. You know what? I'm running my business. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. And I'm looking at them going, seriously? And they're like, yeah, and I'm so busy. And I'm like, where's your life? I literally have asked people, when do you have dinner with your kids? When do you sit down with your spouse? Do you guys go on date nights? What are your priorities? And are you so busy that you start off your day without spending time with the most important person in the world? Not you. Everybody always tells me it's you. It's God. You forget about that too. You know what, God, I was going to do my devotion, but I had other things to do. And I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying I'm not. But that's called not putting on my air mask. I'm not going to who's going to give you all the energy, right? And like I said, I'm a Christian. I'm not trying to shove spirituality on others. I'm not apologizing for being a Christian. What I'm saying is if I don't start off with prayer, a devotion, and do my life the way it needs to be, and sometimes I have 7 a.m. meetings. So no, I don't do my devotion before I go to a 7 a.m. networking meeting. I'm not getting up at 5 or 6, and I'm not going to the gym at 4 a.m. That is not me. That's fine if it's you. But it's about where in my day is that even a priority? And some days I have to stop and breathe and go, Sherry, you haven't even stopped and went and got your time with God. You didn't make, my husband is a huge, and like I said, some people know my husband. I'm madly in love with the guy, and he's a huge priority in my life. But if I don't spend time with him, do you think he feels like he's a huge priority? And your children are a huge priority in your life. And in 20 years, is it going to matter? It is going to matter where your business is, but is it going to matter if you spent more time with your kids and did less on your business? I mean, which one would be more important to you?
My kids growing up to be good human beings and kind people.
Exactly. And it would be like, you know what? My business could have maybe done more. But my kids, I can't get that time back with my kids. Sometimes and I know Debbie has older kids, and I know Chuck does too. And sometimes you go, man, I wish I would have, and I should have, and I could have. And by the way, don't could all over yourself, or you're going to, you know what, all over yourself. You know, should, don't be shoulding all over yourself, right? Because you know what happens there. That ain't going to help your mindset. But time is valuable, right? The time that you're spending with your kids and doing what's important. Remember last time we talked about seasons. And Chuck had to be at the hospital with aging parents. I got that too. And you know, when I say stuff, I did lose my second dad 2 years ago. And I'll let you know, I still wish I could have another cup of coffee with him. And when I say that, I still can, right? I still talk to him, but I mean, I talk to God, and I know he's in heaven, and you can tell me all these things, right? But he's the one that I love to sit and have a cup of coffee with. He was my father. He was the one I could run to when stuff happened. And sometimes I even try to call him now, right? And it'll be 3 years in August since he passed on. 5 days after his 81st birthday, I lost him. But my parents can be hard. And I think Chuck understands that, and some people understand that. So I have an interesting with my parents, right? But I still know if I don't spend time with my parents, I'm going to regret it later. And I told you about last 6 months. My mom almost died last year. From July to December, I made my mom and dad a big priority. And I'm not going back and saying, I regret that, but it put my business a little bit, right, off track. But that's why we talk about having goals in these 6 areas so that you can say relationship. My mom's in the hospital. Guess what? That's where I'm going to spend my time. My son's struggling in school. That's where I'm going to spend my time. Right? But then still making sure that you have dinner once a week with your family. What do you do in your relationships? And so part of being productive is I challenge everybody to write, what is success to you? Not what it is to your parents, but what is it to you? I am happily married almost 29 years. That is a huge accomplishment to me. Okay. I have 4 awesome children. That's a huge accomplishment to me. I got a good business too, but that's not right. And when I go in front of my maker, I want God to say, well done, faithful servant. So I want to be the wife and the mom and the child of God and the friend that I can be to people. And I want to be a great businesswoman. I do. But by your business, this is why I've written this book. This is why I do what I do. Your business, your career, Debbie, whatever you're doing should be supporting your life. When it becomes your life, then maybe you're doing it backwards. Right? Because why do you do your business, Danica? Do you do it because it's the most important thing in your whole freaking life?
I do it so that I feel like I'm accomplishing something outside of just being I shouldn't say just outside
Exactly.
of the mom. So I do my business so that I feel a little bit more like myself.
And you're doing it for your purpose. And you know what? That's a great example to your children, to have a business, to work. And I love what I do all day. I jokingly say I sit down, have a cup of coffee with people. I come up with ways that I can help them move from here to there. I help them become successful in their life and their business. And that puts me on power. And I love the impact and the difference I make in other people's life every day. I love that. That's great. But I do it all through God, right? It's not even me. I'm just one of his tools. But if I'm not making that impact in my home, then how am I being successful? My home is my foundation. I always told the kids when we were growing up, these four walls, we don't need to be putting everybody down. Is it helpful? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And no, by the way, I put my husband down sometimes. I'm not this perfect wife. But when you think about it, soon as he leaves these four walls, what does the rest of the world do? They tear you down. They're not, right? I mean, all these things happen out. But why is your family, your four walls, or your friends, or whatever that relationship, why is that not a safe place to get re-energized? Your children are 6 and 8. Oh my gosh, middle school is difficult. High school is difficult, right? And being an adult, you already know, is difficult. But you're laying the groundwork now for who they're going to be later and how they're going to deal with their mindset and how they're going to either run a business or work for somebody, or what are they going to do? And I always find it very, very scary that your kids are watching you. And I have young adults, and guess who they still watch? And you know what happened to my kids as they became young adults and teenagers? They all of a sudden started realizing I wasn't perfect and I wasn't all that. Really? I never told you I was, right? But they look at you and they admire you and they look up to you. And as they get older, they start realizing that you actually have flaws. But Danica, you must have a kid right there.
Yeah, he stayed home with a headache and a cough, and I'm regretting the choice ever since. So
my daughter has a headache and a cough, and she is a teacher. And I told her, do you want your students come to school like that? They're going to get all the other students sick. Why are you going to teach like that? You can stay home one day and recoup. But she is trying to graduate, and she's a senior, and she doesn't want to miss. And I get that. But what if we spent one day? But guess what? She's at that age that I don't need to tell her. She's an adult. She can figure it out for herself.
My son was asking me to play games and technology, and that's not something he gets to do if he stays home from school. So,
which is good. Those are boundaries. Those are right.
Yeah.
When you stay home from school, you probably should be taking a nap and running your humidifier and resting. But we need to do that too sometimes when we're sick, right? So yeah, doing all these, whatever we do, maybe that's not when it's rest time. So anyway, today that's exactly what we're going to talk about, is what mindset's holding us back. And a lot of them have been instilled from our childhood. Like during the pandemic, let's just use that for an example. And that's what I use in my book, because I was writing this during a pandemic. A lot of people were like getting negative about using Zoom for meetings. They're like, oh my God, I hate Zoom. We can't be in person. I get that. Right now, Debbie and I do Toastmasters, and a lot of the groups are still only meeting on Zoom. And so you can be all negative and have a bad attitude about Zoom, or you can say, look at how great this technology has changed our world, right? We're on Zoom right now where we could be in person, but then you would have had to travel to meet me, and then we would have, not had to, you would have got to, right? So we get to meet on Zoom. We get to go travel and meet in other networking groups, but it's how we look at it. And sometimes people, when there was time to go on Zoom and we did all the technology, people were saying, I don't know how to do that. I understand that. That's different. It's out of your comfort zone. Do you remember when we were putting everything on Zoom, how much people were freaking out in 2020? Some people didn't know what they were doing. Some people didn't know how to get on. Some people had to download, or they had to upgrade, or they had to, nobody knew how to run we wouldn't be doing this. Before 2020, we would all be meeting in person right now. We'd be at the library or the coffee shop or up at ACA or, but now this is normal. But we have to take a risk, and we have to set up Zoom, and we have to step out of that normal box and think and set up meetings and take those challenges on. And you know what? As you are, when you're growing, if you're failing, then be happy, because that's when you're in that growth mindset, because you're going out of your normal. You should be, I don't know, Danica, maybe you are unlike the rest of us and you're a perfect parent and you know exactly how to parent a 6 and 8 year old.
Well, and so this is a mindset shift that I would like to change. That's from my mom, but I see it in myself. I am quick to anger, and I speak that scripture over myself all the time. In fact, I have a scripture that says, "God will fight your battles for you, so keep your mouth shut." And so I have a tendency, I'll put it that way, to get quick to anger with children. And so that's one of my mindsets that I'm constantly working on.
But see, you got the benefit of, Danica, when you were 6 or 8, how would you want somebody to talk to you? And what didn't they do, right? So I have a dad that's very quick to anger. My mom, sometimes I would finally get mad and I'd yell at my kids because I get very frustrated. And there's a lot of things I regret that I would say, hey, you know what? I wish I wouldn't have maybe responded that way. But to realize that you're making those changes and to come back and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't have, or not even maybe I shouldn't have yelled at you. That doesn't mean you're not in trouble but being willing to acknowledge, what you've done, even in parenting, even as a leader or whatever position you're in. But you've never ran a business by yourself. I mean, you've never ran your own business. So that's different. You've never raised a 6 and 8 year old. You've watched other people, and before your parents, we always say, I'm never going to do that. And then you find out that you're going to do that. And the only way that you learned to be a parent was from your parents. So if you start acting like your parents, that's normal until you say, maybe I don't really want to do it that way, because you get to choose. So it is a mindset. And children who understand mistakes can lead to learning to become more self-aware and develop a growth mindset. So it's the way that we even tell our kids, right? Children that are told that, all right, I have 3 young adults. They are taking off their training wheels and they're trying to ride the bike of life, and they're not doing it my way. I can't believe that they have the audacity to do that, but that's what they're doing. But when I make a suggestion, or I mentor, or I coach them, or I say, my daughter went, she's not listening and taking a day off to be sick. Okay, that's your choice. But then all of a sudden, if she keeps being sick, which I don't know if she will or not, then I can say, well, what are we going to do about that? What are you going to do now? So Gerald is my second dad who passed on, and he was the biggest mentor and whatever to me. And he used to tell me, Sherry, don't do this, or give me advice. And do you think as a 20-year-old, I met him when I was 18 for starters. Do you think I listened to him? No, I know how to do my own life. Don't be telling me. So then I'd go do whatever, right? And then I'd crash and burn. And he would never ever say, I told you so. He would say, okay, what are you going to do now? Because it's a learning opportunity. And so whenever we do crash and burn, and especially if we didn't listen to somebody else that maybe is wiser and new, but what are we going to do now? Do you know the light bulb? How many times did it take for the guy that created the light bulb? It didn't just happen. You guys are all using light right now. It was invented, but it took time. The airplane, how many times did they try to do the Wright brothers try to get it up in the air, and it crashed? So it's about that growth opportunity. It's about, you didn't fail. Even if you get anger to your kids, you didn't fail. You learned. You went up. I made a mistake. That's not what I wanted to do. How do I correct this? And the way I did it, we would sometimes have family meetings. I had to literally break a family cycle with my children. And you know what? I haven't done a good job of it. And you're like, what are you talking about? I came from childhood that I would not want somebody else to grow up in. So my kids and my husband grew up on the street till he was 14. And so we didn't come from where we wanted to be. And I told him we don't know how to have a marriage or parent, right? We know what we don't want. And so every time I would do what I don't want, then I learned to go back, apologize, and do better. But you can't just break something that you can't just stop smoking. I mean, you can, but you might need a patch. You might need some accountability. You might need to chew gum. You might need to, what do you got to do different? And if you go smoke another cigarette, which I don't smoke, I'm just saying, if you smoke another cigarette when you want to quit, you're not a bad person because you smoked another cigarette. You got to put it down and start again. And so growth mindset is about, are you doing better in whatever that area is? And are you learning? And, you know, your business is, like I told you, going to go up and down. You're going to fail. You're going to succeed. But then when you pull those right people around you and you resource up, you can succeed more. Fixed mindset is when people believe their qualities are fixed traits and cannot be changed. So I just get angry all the time. That's just who I am. Deal with it. Okay, that's a very fixed mindset. Versus I tend to get angry easily, especially when I deal with children or when I deal with stupid employees or when I deal with somebody that's really passive aggressive or when I deal. And I have a Norma Hill in the back of my head. I think I might have told you guys this. I met her at Bible class and I would call her and I'd complain about all these things going on in my life. And she'd say, what God trying to teach you in it? Because the only person I can control is me. And you can't say the person's passive aggressive and this person triggers, and they maybe do trigger you, but are you choosing to be triggered or are you choosing to do something different? And some people, obviously, we need to not be around them at all. But keep in mind that there's no wrong answer to the questions that I'm asking you like right now. What was your childhood mindset? Write that down. What was your childhood mindset? So I was told a lot of things about me that's not true. I didn't go to kindergarten because we were building a house. Mom didn't have time to take me back and forth to kindergarten. It was like preschool now, though, so it wasn't mandatory. And out of all the kids, or 6 of us, I wasn't valued. I feel not valued enough that I didn't get to go to kindergarten. It just wasn't a priority. And then I went to private school, and then I didn't learn how to read till 3rd grade because I went to private school and they didn't realize I didn't know how to read till 3rd grade. What the heck? So I fell through the cracks. Then they say I have dyslexia. So then they tell me I'm dumb. Then they tell me, right? And then I had all these siblings that could just succeed with books under their head. Right? And then 5th grade, I go to public school and they don't know what to do with me. So they put me in a special resource room and everybody called me retarded and stupid. And to make matters worse, I had my parents at home showing that my sister was in 3rd grade reading at 5th grade and I was in 5th grade reading at 3rd grade. And I was so proud of myself in 5th grade because I could read at 3rd grade level. I thought I'd done a lot until when you're 10 and you see that people are mocking you. So how does that go into your adulthood, right? And then to be even nicer, they used to make me do 5th grade book reports. I did my 3rd grade book report in front of my 5th grade peers. How did that go? What do you think my 5th grade peers did to me? You got to be kidding me, right? And so you can go back as an adult and I don't have resentment or nothing. I just know that that's something I can get pulled back into, that I'm not that smart, that I can't. And who am I to write a book? And who am I to, right? Who am I to? Who am I not to, though? That's not true, right? But if you got told that as a child or you believe that, you can get pulled back in it. So those are one of those, what is it called? Bad childhood things that probably shouldn't have happened to me. Okay, let's be honest. It shouldn't have happened to me. But because it happened to me, I am who I am today. I'm much more compassionate for others. I'm much more right. I have all these other skill sets that came out of it. But you had to work through all that. It's not like you just wake up one day and go, I'm so over all that. Right? So you just got to work through it. And my parents, You can have problems with my parents and you can be mad at your parents, but your parents did the best they could with what they knew with their own skill sets, and they got their own brokenness and they got their own stuff. So being mad at your parents for whatever isn't helping you as an adult either, right? So when we're looking at a lot of stuff that happened in childhood, or being mad about that bully that got you on, I don't know what happened to you, but all of us have them. So don't allow that perspective and be a victim and have the poor me, because you don't live there anymore. Write that down. You do not live there anymore. You are over 20 years old. You get to decide who you are and who you want to be. That's what I did. At 20, I started saying, I want to do something different, but I was only 20. And in case you don't know, I'm a little older than 20 now, right? So 30 years later, I'm sitting here going, I don't have to be that person. And life's not supposed to be overwhelming. Life isn't meant to just merely to survive. It's intended for you to live. You're intended to live your life. You're meant to be the hero of your story. You're meant to be you. So what is success to you? Not what is success to your spouse, not what is success to your friends or your parents, but to you. It's your life. You have one life to live. We let fear get in the way of those successes that we want. So when you're going through those 6 areas of your life, what is success? Where do you guys want to be in 5, 10 years? But not just in your business, but your life. Do you remember negative things that you were told throughout your childhood, like I just talked about? We all have those records in the back of our head. You know that? Do you know my ex-husband used those records against me? Are you shocked? Right? I was with my ex-husband from 17 to 20. Do you think I knew that's what he was doing? Not until you start realizing that, but I allowed it. So if you're doing that now, why are you allowing people to do that, right? So if you think or say negative thoughts, you're focusing on your fear and you're killing your faith. Do you know that faith and fear cannot live in the same place together? Write that down. Faith and fear. If you're trusting that I can write a book, I can't freak out that I can't, because the book's not going to get done. And don't worry, I did that for a minute with my book. People are like, how long did it take you to write your book? What do you mean? When I finally got mad and decided just to do it? Or when I kept starting and then stopping and then making excuses? Because I did. I did that. So all of a sudden, July 2021, I decided I was done. And so July 2021, I thought I could get done by the end of the year. So I set up those SMART goals. You ever do that? But I've never written a book. Who here has ever written a book? I never wrote a book. I just decided I could get it done by the end of the year. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So I put my book together. Guess what? There's more editing. They want to know what the title is. They want a picture on the front. They want this. They want, oh my gosh. Okay. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it done by January. My book did not get done by January 1st. New year, 2022. I want my book done by January 1st. There was more editing, more this, more. Are you serious? My gosh. So then, when my book finally got done, I wanted my book done. Okay, can we get it done before Valentine's Day? Nope. It didn't get done before Valentine's Day. Can you believe it? Didn't I tell you my SMART goal was December 31st? So I'm like, okay, did I give up? No, I just kept editing, fixing, doing. Can we get this stupid book published? Come on. And I kept pushing through. You know when my book got published? When God decided my book got published, not Sherry. So the publisher and I did not decide the date. My book got published 2/22/22. Is that hilarious? That was the day it went to print. That was not my SMART goal. But I kept picking myself up, kept editing, kept saying, okay, what needs done? Is this stupid book going to ever get done? And don't worry, like I said, I'd been working on it and stopping and working on it. And I've heard so many people say, I'm going to write a book. And some people even told me, yeah, everybody says they're going to write a book. You're not going to get it done. Can you believe I had people tell me that? And then some people were making fun of me. They're like, oh yeah, well, you should write a book, telling somebody else saying you should write a book in your spare time, because they didn't see my why for writing my book. And then now I've had people call me and say, should I write a book? I'm like, why are you writing a book? Well, I know, but should I write a book? Yeah, but why are you writing a book? Not everybody should just go write a book. Really, they shouldn't. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sweat. It's a lot of tears. What is your purpose behind what you're doing? And don't just say, I'm going to write a book because everybody's writing a book. That doesn't even make sense. Like, I wrote my book so that I could help more people. I could make a bigger impact. A lot of it's going to get turned on to online training. I teach on this stuff. This is why I wrote the book. But I fought with God for like 2 years that who am I? I'm not good enough. I'm not going to write this book. And now that I've wrote my book, you should be shocked. Now I'm not like #1 bestseller because I didn't jump through hoops. I didn't do all that stuff because that wasn't why I wrote my book. I wrote it so I could support and help more people, right? And so whenever you're doing something, don't worry about what the naysayers say. And don't worry about that everybody else did, right? We don't need to keep up with the Joneses. Don't go build a big house because they got a big house. You don't need a truck. You ever hear guys just say they want a truck? Like, what do you need a truck for? You could drive a smaller. Now I know guys are going to be mad at me. Now, if you're getting it because you want this toy, that's great. But be honest, that's why you want it. If you're writing it, if you're doing whatever you're doing, do it with purpose. And don't let other people tell you that. And your growth mindset is, yeah, I've never done this. And I'm going to let you know, when you run your business, these people that are not entrepreneurs and don't run their business, guess what they like to tell you? Why don't you go get a real job? Have you ever heard anybody tell you that? Chuck, should you go get a real job? That's one of the things people like to tell you.
Is there words behind the word real? Like real easy, real hard?
And then like when your parents are having problems or your kids are having problems or your friends need something, they think you don't work.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
You know what kills me? When they'll say,
call me.
That little business of yours. That's the thing that kills me. Hey, so are you still doing that? Do you still got that little business that you got, or that little, it's always is minimized? And it's like, yeah, I'm still working this little business of mine.
See, and that's the same with, are you just a stay-at-home mom? Are you serious?
Yeah.
My business is not little. House manager is an actual job. Did you know that? And being a mom is an actual, and being a dad's even. And I have friends that are stay-at-home dads. My brother was a stay-at-home dad. And believe me, are you just a stay-at-home dad? And by the way, my brother was never just a stay-at-home dad. And most moms are never just a stay-at-home mom, because they're either doing PTL or they're Ubering or they're, or they're doing, all these other jobs that they can do while they're being a mom. And usually most people aren't just, even if they are doing volunteer and being a mom.
I was going to say art class volunteer, library volunteer, PTA, carnival organizing, auctions with your business. Yeah, it's all over.
And that's part of the mom job. You know what I mean? And some of us work and do that, but some people, they got more time to do that. But you know what? We need them. And they're doing all those volunteer. And so when I've sat down with people before to put a resume together, and they'll say that to me, I've just been a stay-at-home mom. I'm like, no, you haven't. What have you done? And then we find out they ran the whole auction. Oh, so you were the auction manager. You were the office manager at the school. You were the PTL president. There's all these things. And because we belittle it, and Chuck doesn't have just a small little business, right? He makes money, he pays his bills. And by the way, he has more than one business going. And most entrepreneurs do, right? And Debbie they'll be like, do you just work at, I don't know. What do people say to you, Debbie? That is belittling and silly, and it's not true.
Oh, usually it's about the workload and who's busy and who's not and that kind of thing. A lot of people go into the office just to look busy. You
Yeah,
know,
because if you're busy, you're
They're just
important.
looking
And that's
busy.
not true. Busy is not important. Busy is lack of
Right.
delegation. You're not a very good leader. And it's different if you're busy doing what you need to be doing, right? I mean, if you're busy because you're busy,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? But sometimes you're busy because you're saying yes to stuff that you need to be saying no to, right? And then people love to ask me, I wrote a book, and in February will be a year that I wrote this book, and they'll be like, when are you writing another book? First of all, I do have another book, but what is my reasoning right now for writing another book? I got my book, I'm doing this, you know what I mean? I love it when, I barely publish a book and then people are like, where's your next book? Why do I have to throw out a book every month right? I mean, some people do that. And if they're doing it with purpose, that makes sense. But you don't. Oh, and people ask me, how many books have you sold? I'm like, I'm not trying to sell books. They're like, you're not selling books. No, I am. But I didn't write my books to run around and walk around the street to sell books. I mean, I'm not the dollar store. Come on, I'm not trying to. That's not how I make a living. It's not what I do. I wrote a book so I could make an impact and help more people. So that if you want to, you can go pick up my book for $15 and you can get some great information and you can work through it. If you want to, you can pick up your book, work with me. But I mean, people are silly with the stuff that they'll say to you. And they don't say, very seldom you get somebody to say, Chuck, I am so proud of you. Look at how far your business has came. How many people of that do you get to say that, Chuck? Out of how many people say, do you still have that little business? How many people say one or the other? Huh?
So I'll say the ratios are maybe 20 to 30. I mean, 20 to 80%, with 20% of people being more in favor of what I'm doing, and the 80% of people basically telling me, downplaying the achievements. You got a lot of people that, like I said, the little business thing, or you still doing business, you still in business, or man, how did you survive? And it's like, I don't know, because I'm putting in the work, maybe. And the biggest one, this is the one I love the most. Man, you're so lucky.
Yeah, and people will tell me, you're so lucky you own your own business. And
Somebody
gone
told me
too-
that at a show. They said, oh, I just wish that I could decorate for weddings and do a show like this. And I'm like, okay, you can, and
Yeah.
it's hard.
All you gotta do is apply yourself.
Yeah.
And so this is where we're on day 3. And when we go to, we're talking about that. We get to choose who we listen to. Write that down. You get to choose those 20% of the people that are supporting you. And those other 80, some people are just jealous of you. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
They're jealous of you because they wish they had to do whatever you're doing.
You know what though?
People will look at you and you'll get a nice house. I know Debbie bought a pretty nice house, several years ago. But my point is, they'll look at you and they'll be like, you got a great house. Her husband, by the way, plays golf for a living. People think that's an easy job. It's not, is it, Deb? And so when they find out that he teaches golf and plays golf, they're like, oh, well, I wish I could teach golf and play golf all day. Excuse me, there's a little more in that than you think, okay? And then they bought this house and they have this nice, and so people will look at you and they'll be like, I wish I had that. Well, then go work for it and get it. Right? They're like, a lot of times it's their own insecurities. And so what we listen to, what we read, and what we watch. Have you ever heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out? Do you know, if you guys are going to go watch Netflix tonight, or you're going to watch TV tonight, or I don't know what you're going to watch tonight, you get to choose. So if you listen to that news, especially like during the pandemic, were you listening to all the news? Did you have the news on all day? I'm going to challenge everybody to either listen to CNN or Fox 4 all day. Go do that for a week. See how you feel. They are going to motivate you. You're going to feel empowered. You're going to think there's all kinds of hope. I don't care which station you're listening to. If you listen to them all day long, they fear cells. Did you know that? They want to scare you. They want to, I don't know, right? But they're not trying to empower you. Now, if you go listen to Joyce Myers all day, or you listen to, some of these other motivational people all day long, if you read this book by Joyce Myers, I'm not selling Joyce Myers here, I just happen to have her book here, Power of Words, and you start changing your words because you're listening to her, and you listen to a podcast of motivational people. Who are some of the great podcasts that you guys listen to? Like, I love, I can pull up my podcast thing, but I have a whole bunch of them.
There's actually one I really like, and they're local. They're called The Unlikely Housewives of Joko. And they're Christians and they're moms, and they talk about their walk and how it is to be a mom and a Christian and be raising kids in Johnson County. So.
Oh, did you just tell me? You just told me that no matter what your walk is, do you know there's ones on aging parents and how to be a good, right? How to support your aging parents. There's ones on, right? And I like John Maxwell. I listen to a lot of John Maxwell. I like to listen to, there's so many different, Christy Wright's really good. There's a lot of really good, and people will be like, I don't have time to read, or I'm not a good reader. Well, that's just an excuse. So if you don't want to actually read a hard book, which I like to read a hard book, there's so many ways you can read a book. You can listen to it online. You can listen to audiobooks.
I listen. I'll say I read 15% books, 85% audiobooks, because I can actually work and do stuff and listen. And when I don't get an understanding of something, I can easily just go 15 second rewind, and I can pick that back up and get a better sense of it. So you're right. You're definitely
So we
right.
decide what we listen to, what we read, and what we watch. We really get to decide. And people can't believe I don't listen to the news. And people are like, how do you know what's going on? Okay, I listen to Christian radio. I'll find out what's going on. People on Facebook. And guess what? You can Google and you can go back and listen to the stories. So if something big happens, you'll know. Believe me, I am not living under a rock because I don't listen to the news. I promise you. I just don't let the news influence me all day long. I don't choose to. But I know what's going on in the world. And sometimes I even know about sports, and I'm not even a sports person. Right now, I know more about Chiefs than I care to know because my husband was working so much and I started watching the game with him every Sunday, which is fine. But I know enough that I can talk educational, to other people about it. And so it's not like you have to. And who we hang with, we were talking about that, right? Surround yourself with those positive people. But too funny, I had Bible study this morning. I have friends of 32 years, and we meet at 7 a.m. on Thursday. And so we meet it's actually breakfast and Bible study. Let's be real, right? It's really a small little devotion. And this morning it was like, only hang out with positive people, which isn't true because that's not what Jesus did. That's not what I'm saying. Because if we're out trying to live our life to the fullest, sometimes we aren't going to, first of all, we're not going to be able to hang out with positive people. And sometimes maybe you could influence somebody else that's having a bad day and not a positive person. But overall, you should have those people that you can run to. The Go-Getters. Have you ever read that book, The Go-Getter? That's a really good book, and it's short. But it's essential to surround yourself around the people who lift you up.
Is it called The Go-Giver or The Go-Getter?
The Go-Giver. The Go-Giver is one of the books. Yep.
Okay. That's a good book.
Show us the book.
This is my all-time, this is what started me in sales when I was in college. It's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. It's by Og Mandino. And this is just so much fun to read. And it talks about like some things that I have outlined in here. Failure will never overtake you if you're determined to succeed is strong enough. And just a lot of little really fun stuff. So this is I have had this since college, and it's a great book, The Greatest Salesman in the World.
See, those books, those are good books. They don't go out of, style. But be sure that you know who those people are that will empower you. And remember, I talked about mindset the very first day. It's okay to have a bad day. It's not okay to stay there. But to get around those supportive people regularly, that's part of what was I talking about? Self-care. Part of your self-care is, do you not, I don't have time to have a cup of coffee with my friend. Yes, you do. Go make it a priority. Get on their calendar. And yeah, there's some friends of mine I haven't seen for a minute. And yeah, I do need to get together with them. And that's what you need to do. Make plans to get together and connect. Because the energy that you put off, though, do you know the energy that you put off affects the people around you? You ever have somebody walk in a room and you can just feel their energy? And everybody tends to gravitate to them or want to be around them. But then have you ever walked into a room and you can feel that negative energy? It's like you just want to leave out the door. Because that happens. Or people are avoiding that person because they have negative energy. And it really is because people can feel where you're at. And let's not forget about those toxic people. We all have those toxic people in our life. Some of them we're related to. Right? So you can't get rid of relatives. I've tried, or maybe not, but you come up boundaries with relatives, right? And let's not let other people steal your joy. Have you ever heard that song? I'm not going to let others steal my joy. It's a Christian song, but focus on being your authentic and see yourself as you, and don't compare yourself to others. Do you know comparison always just causes you to feel bad about you? And you were uniquely and wonderfully made. You are you. You're not going to be. You weren't even created to be somebody else. Why are you trying to be that person? Utilize your gifts. You know how we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses? A lot of times we're like, well, we need to fix all these weaknesses. Well, maybe we need to capitalize on our strengths and find ways that we can get others to support us in our weaknesses, because you're not meant to be good at everything.
Multitasking.
I see this. And when you do something, do it to get ahead, not because other people's opinions matter, like you were talking about, Danica. I have a thing, my new thing that I tell everybody, I used to always try to be what my parents wanted me to be, and I can't be what my parents want me to be. And by the way, I shouldn't be what my parents want me to be. So now I try to be what God wants me to be, right? But God wants me to be a better version of me. And I love Deb, but there's no way I can be Deb. And I promise you, there's no way Deb can be me. And yet we're great friends, but we're total opposite, are we not, Deb? There's no way we could be the other person. So we've done a lot of public speaking and a lot of other stuff. And Deb will get up and give this amazing speech. And I'll be like, man, that's awesome. Or whatever she does. But if I get up there and I try to be Deb, man, everybody's going to be like, who the heck are you? Right? And if Deb tried to show up as me, people would be like, who is this? My point is, right? But when you show up as you, that's being authentic. That's being who you are called to be. And I only called her out because I knew she wouldn't. But we've seen people before, like in Toastmasters. I actually had this one lady in Toastmasters, which we don't need to talk up, but she kept trying to be me. And I'm a little bit of a smart aleck. And sometimes I just say stuff. I know you haven't ever seen that. Ha, ha, ha. But no. And so she would do that. And then people, whatever she was doing was falling. And she was like, you guys all think it's funny when Sherry does it. And I'm like, because I'm showing up and I'm being Sherry. And I don't think everybody always thinks it's funny when I do it. Sometimes they probably find stuff annoying. But the only person I can show up, right? And Coffee Cup Chuck, by the way, he's amazing. Have you not watched his podcast and some other stuff? I sent you one. But if I show up and I try to be Coffee Cup Chuck, it's not going to work. And if Chuck tried to show up being me, I think he thinks I'm pretty cool. But he doesn't want to try to show up being me, do you? You're not going to show up being Sherry, Chuck. You should try that. Right?
Oh, first of all, I got to grow my hair out. I got to shave. Ooh, I got to get a little shorter too. You're a little short.
But even like Chuck shows up, right? And he brings a lot of energy. I show up and I bring a lot of energy. But the way we do it, isn't it total different, Chuck? And I'm not going to show up, even though I think what Chuck does is awesome. I'm not going to show up and try to be, even though I admire and I think Chuck's awesome and I think Deb's awesome. And I'm, you know, Danica, you and I are getting to know each other. I'm not trying to say that you're not awesome, because you are. But if I tried to show up and be you, if I started watching you and seeing all these things that I think are cool about you and tried to be you, that's not, now I'm not saying don't have people that you look up to and you aspire to be. And I'm not saying don't listen to podcasts and don't look, but let's try to be ourselves and not worry about what others think. Do you know that there is no mistakes? Write this down. There's no mistakes, only happy accidents. That was by Bob Ross. But I love that saying. There's no mistakes, only happy accidents. So what we think, do you know that your thoughts become your reality? Man, I am married to the love of my life. I tell people this all the time, but I have a problem with him. He's not perfect. He actually does annoying things. He loves to leave shoes all over the house. And it's okay that I'm telling you guys this because he already knows, because I've complained to him about it. And 29 years later, he still does that. Can you believe it? I tell everybody, put your shoes in the closet. This is where your shoes go. He coats. I don't even know what else he does. So if I decide to focus on that and I walk around today and I go, oh my gosh, if Kevin could only put his shoes away, life would be so much. By the time Kevin gets home, do you know how mad I could be at Kevin? If I walk around and think, I'm just saying, when you live with somebody, how many annoying things do they do? Now, if Kevin would be more like Sherry and do nothing annoying, then we would be good. Ha ha ha. So what annoying things do I do, right? Kevin could tell you. I do. I sometimes leave my shoes around, but then I always collect them all and put them where they belong. And I do that with my clothes, but then I collect them all. His will sit there for 3 days. Okay, now I'm keeping score here. Not really. If I focus on that, right? Versus, do you know what my Kevin does? Most mornings, I can't say always, because sometimes he hasn't done it, but most generally, all these years, he brings me my coffee, my water, and he fills up my tank of gas. And he's done that. And right now my gas is on E. And I was trying to leave this morning. I'm like, my gas is on E. And said, I'm going to go get gas. And Kevin's like, but where are you going? I'll go get the gas when I get home. And if I go get my gas, he gets a little bit offended because he thinks that's what he does. But how phenomenal that I have a husband that brings me my coffee, my water, and gets my gas. Can you believe that? Oh, and sometimes he makes me eggs in the morning. Not all the time. So should I get mad the mornings that he doesn't do that? Or should I get mad today because he didn't put gas in my car? And then I'm not really going to go anywhere today. So I did say, well, I could go get the gas. And he goes, no, wait till I get home. I'll get it. Now, can I go get my own gas? Oh my gosh, believe me, I know how to go get my own gas. But what I didn't want to do is make him feel bad because I go get my own gas, right? So my point is that not a phenomenal husband? So then if I complain about that he leaves his shoes and he does whatever else annoying stuff. Oh, he doesn't organize his tools. I can give you a whole list of all the crap Kevin does, okay? Do you guys want to sit here and listen to that? Or you just want to hear what a phenomenal husband he is, right? So if we're looking and we keep play those thoughts in our head that even about ourselves, right? Oh my gosh, my office is a mess. I'm never going to get this organized. I can't believe that I did whatever you did. I just yelled at my daughter or whatever I did, right? If I keep playing that about me too all day, how am I going to feel about myself? So if I talk bad about my spouse, how am I going to feel about my spouse when he gets home? And if I talk bad about myself, how is that going to get me where I want to be today? Right? So we need to always capture our thoughts and think we can stay there. Oh, your kid, you could be mad all day because they stayed home and they're sick and they're not really sick or whatever the deal is with kids, because kids are exciting. They are just, you never know what kids are going to do. But the feelings create your actions. Did you know that? And your results. So how I choose to feel about my spouse how I choose. Oh, I could be mad at him. You could have got me gas and that's annoying. But why would I do that? Right. I mean, I will. There's days I will. Come on, let's be real. Right. We all will do that. But pick those negative thoughts and replace them with something positive. But you got to remember to capture them. Right. The very first meeting, I can't remember. Some people were saying things like, what did you say? I'm quick to anger. But you could say, I'm getting where I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm improving, whatever. You got to change the phrase. What were you going to say, Danica?
On the first day, Chuck said, I'm always late. And that's what you were talking about, was not those I'm always, and that fixed mindset of I'm always angry. That's why I try to change. That's why I'm changing the conversation to my personality is quick to anger, but I am leaning on God's word and leaning on the scripture so that I can change that behavior.
Be quick to anger. Now
Yeah.
I'm working on not being quick to anger. See, I'm working on not getting angry so quickly. There you go. You change it to that. Write that right there. I'm working on not getting angry so quickly, because
Yeah.
you're not quick to anger. You're a work in progress. We all are. I know. I'm glad you guys are all, I think you're all sitting down. I'm not perfect. I'm over here a work in progress. I know. Isn't that hard to believe? And that's what we are. So it does say that in here. It says, stay away from always and never. And then I use this example. My husband is a lot like Chuck. He's not. He's definitely not Chuck, but I'm being funny. But my husband is a worker. So my husband never sits still. He really, really does not. I think Deb's been over to my house before. He's going to be down at the fire pit, restarting the fire. He never will sit still. And then when he is sitting still, his knee or something is always moving. He's just always like moving. He's always. So I could say my husband never listens to me. He's not listening to me right now, but maybe he's distracted by something else. He often listens to me when I go out to coffee or lunch with him with no distractions around. Okay, so our oldest son, it's his birthday today. He's 34 today. Can you believe it? But he knows when he has to tell his dad something big, he'll be like, oh, let's go out to eat dinner, or we go out to coffee or something. So when he got engaged and he wanted to tell us, that's what he did. When he was going to have a baby, that's what he did, right? And he also said, if I really want to talk to dad, I know I need to. Now, if dad's out piddling in the garage and whatever, he'll listen. But if it's something you really need to talk to him about, you need to go take him away from his distractions and talk to him. So I could say my husband never listens to me, which is not true. Instead, I had to rephrase that statement to, he's not listening to me right now because he's distracted by some other things. He often listens to me. He doesn't always listen to me, right? But he often listens to me when we go out to coffee and there's no distractions around. So that's understanding that I have an amazing, great husband, but it's better if you approach him in this way, right? And so it's about rephrasing what you're saying. I can say Chuck is always distracted. Are you always distracted, Chuck? Chuck's one of these people that is always doing the next thing.
I am 50% intentional and deliberate and 50% not.
But again, Chuck and I've been friends, I guess he says 6 months, but I've went out to coffee with Chuck before and he'll sit there and he'll listen to you and he'll, right? But it's understanding. I'm just teasing Chuck because my husband can be that way, but it doesn't matter, right? It's about the reframing of that, right? When we go to coffee. So what we believe, we can't control what happens around us, but we can control our thoughts and how we respond. When I was struggling with my parents, my mom almost died, all that stuff, I would walk into the hospital room and my father can be difficult. So I had to already know that I need to put my armor of God on, so to speak. And I'd say, hey, Holy Spirit, let's go in here together, the rehab, the hospital. And I'd have my 3 things I needed to do, or my 2 things. And if negative things happen, because you knew that might already happen, so you should pre-plan, then I already had somewhat of a game plan of how I would deal with them, right? in other words, lowering your expectations sometimes. But what are you going to believe? The thoughts are very powerful. They can make your mind and body feel good, or they can make you feel bad. And now I made Chuck run away, right? I'm being funny, but here he is. I made Chuck run away is what I did. He probably still can't hear me. But be aware of your thoughts and your self-talk. Do you know, unless you think about what you're thinking, it just automatically happens? You have how many thoughts a day? They just automatically happen. But if you stop and you think about what you're doing or what you're thinking, then you can control them. They're automatic and they're autopilot. Since they just happen, they're not necessarily always correct. And if you're a Christian like me, you know the devil is always working on you. Because if he wasn't, I mean, if I wasn't doing big things, then you wouldn't have somebody trying to shut you down, right? As you're moving forward. Your negative thoughts will deceive you. You don't have to believe everything that you think. And unfortunately, if you don't challenge your thoughts, you're just going to believe what your thought just came through. Can you believe that? So if you don't rethink what you just thought, you're just going to believe it, even if it's not true. And when you go to anger, she was talking about easily anger. Do you know when you're angry, all you're looking for is negative thoughts? Anger is not a bad feeling, by the way. Even Jesus had anger, right? He knocked down the temples and stuff, but it's how we respond. But when you get angry, like get mad because my husband left his shoes everywhere. Oh, wait, this is the first time he's ever done that. No, it won't be. And it won't be the last. And, you know, he didn't put gas in my car, whatever you're going to focus on, right? And you get angry about it, then guess what you're going to do? You're just going to look for more things to be mad about. So when we get those negative thoughts, guess what we do? We focus on them and they expand. Because we can find all the negative things that are going on if that's what we're focusing on. But if you focus on your positive, you're going to find more positive. Always reframe. But I use the word always, and we can't always do it, right? But always strive to reframe your negative thoughts into something more positive. Focus on positive and gratitude. Remember, we talked about that. You can start your day off with a gratitude journal. You can start your day off with, what are you grateful for in your spouse? What are you grateful for in your children? What are you grateful for in your business? And if things are bad in that, how can we reframe them? Right? It's up to you, right? So my friend Gerald's favorite saying, and I say it a lot now, was make it a good day. Not have a good day. Because he would tell me, no matter what's going on in your world, your mom's in the hospital, this is going on, you get to choose to make it a good day. And sometimes, I mean, 9/11, my brother died in the Pentagon. How could you make that a good day? I get sometimes there's those big things, but you still get to choose, make it a good day. That is my husband's family. They are, what does it say? Tell us what you're saying, Debbie.
That was for me. I had it on everyone. Chuck was noticing my Nebraska family in the back. And so I had it on everyone, and it was supposed to go only to Chuck. But basically he was commenting on my decor back here and being a big Red fan. And I said, nope, that's his family, but they're not really Huskers anymore. Because the Huskers have had such a bad few seasons.
But if you have Huskers on and you get a picture, you're stuck there now, right?
I guess
But
so.
yeah.
Yep, and that's Chuck's fixed mindset of me, that I'm a Huskers fan because my decor.
No, I said, so I'm from Nebraska. And of course, every time I see anything that says anything about Nebraska, I have to make a comment. So.
And I'm from Alaska, and I very seldom see anything from Alaska. I don't understand why these people are all against me and they don't have Alaska stuff everywhere. You don't even have a professional team. Wow. But anyway, what we believe, we get to choose, we get to reframe. And so when we make choices of what we listen to and read and the people that we hang out with, you get to ask yourself, are they encouraging you or are they pulling away from who you want to be? Are they taking you closer to where you want to be? Or are they taking you further away? Like newspapers, online articles. I mean, how many things do we put in a day? And who do you hang out with in the business world in general, right? And so then we can go through with our health. Who are you hanging out with? If you want to lose weight, are you going to McDonald's? Are you hanging out with people that go to McDonald's or, Starbucks every day? Are you hanging out with those people that are overweight and not wanting to make a right? There was a time that every Friday I was meeting up for happy hour. Man, there's $2 margaritas. Come on now. Does not sound like fun? And I get together with friends and then we'd have chips and salsa and margaritas. And I try to order somewhat healthy, and then I started saying, how about if you just do that once a quarter? I mean, it's still fun to do, right? But probably going every Friday to drink and stuff isn't going to take me. I mean, how much weight you think I was gaining doing that? You know what I mean? Is that what I really want to be doing every Friday? Probably not. But if you do, nothing's wrong with it. But when you do it, is it taking you where you want to be? And so I just decided one day, I don't think I want to do that every Friday. And I stopped doing it. And then people be like, oh, you haven't been there for a minute. Okay. But then I'll show up. But if you show up once a quarter, my friends are just as happy to see me. And I later had them over, you can have them over, or you can get together for lunch or do something that's more what you want to do. So it's about figuring out what you're doing and if it's taking you where you want to be and reframing what you're doing to do it in a different way. Like there's a lot of really good salad restaurants around here. Did you know that? You can meet there. I mean, I can meet you for coffee. I mean, coffee's probably too much coffee. Maybe it's not good like margaritas, but what can you do different? So when you look at what you're doing in all these different areas of your life, we talked about those 6 areas. What do you want to be doing? And what do you want your mindset to be? And then day 4 is all about writing your gratitude journals. Have you guys done some of your affirmations or gratitude the last couple of days?
I think when you have, like last night I had an off night because my daughter had a nightmare and came and slept in my bed, and it's hard to wake up and remember. I mean, it's not hard. It was hard for me this morning to wake up and remember my affirmation and remember my, this is the day that the Lord has made prayer that I say every morning when you have a night that's not normal. But I need to be better at that because we're about to get a puppy. And so my nights are not going to be normal for the next month or so. So I just have to.
Bad news. They'll be longer than a month. It's like having a new baby, right, for the next year. But you're about ready to get a pump. But how about if do you brush your teeth? How about if your affirmations are right on the wall, hung up there? What if what if you decide to do your gratitude? And again, not to make you feel bad, not to anything, but your kids are watching you.
Right.
So if they see you writing a gratitude journal, they see you doing your devotion, they see you do your prayer, right? And having a bad night or having a bad day would even be more time. But what did I just tell you? I don't do that when I got to be somewhere at 7 a.m. That doesn't mean throughout the day you can't schedule it some other time. And you said this morning I didn't do it. Okay. So can you schedule it this afternoon?
Right.
Can you go for a walk and do gratitude in your head? What can you do, right? Because if you stop doing this, if you stop doing gratitude journals, you stop doing affirmations, or you stop, watch how your mind starts changing. Or if you've never done it, start doing it and watch how your mind changes. And you could just set a timer to make a brief statement throughout the day about one of your affirmations. Reflect on it, restructure, rewrite it in a positive, right? Before long, you're going to start realizing your brain, you're just reprogramming your brain is what you're doing over time. And even if you are a really positive person, we can all do better, right? Even if you think you're slow to anger, right? You think, oh, don't get angry but you still could be better about it. Or if you are slow to anger, is there times that you don't speak up when you need to? And if you do speak up, should you be doing it in a more productive, way, more loving, more grace, more whatever it is, right? And so on day 5, which we'll talk about tomorrow, is who do you want to be? We're going to start talking about that. Your best self. And is your mindset and then you're hanging around with all that stuff. We'll talk about a bunch of that tomorrow. Because is it getting us where we want to be? Because every day is a choice. And there's going to be pros and cons of having a puppy, Danica.
I'm actually really excited. I've actually never had a puppy. I had a dog, but I've never had a puppy. So.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
It'll chew everything. It pees everywhere. It's like having a toddler, and you're going to have a toddler for at least 3 years.
I've successfully raised 2 kids, so I think I'll be okay. But I'm a little. My husband keeps saying, if you smile like that every time you talk about a dog, then we should probably get you a dog. I'm like, okay, yeah.
I know, and it sounds like fun, and your kids are perfect ages for it, but it's a lot of work. Deb's had one. I've had a puppy. Chuck, you ever done a puppy?
We did over puppies. We delivered puppies. My wife,
Oh man.
my wife delivered 5 puppies from our American Bulldog 12 years ago. And she Googled everything to learn how to do it. And it was a good thing she did, because our dog was so pampered that she needed assistance. She couldn't. Alexa, turn on the hallway light. So she delivered the doggies, and this is this big guy. That is the son of the dog. We had his mom, and this is the only one we kept, was the boy. He was the only boy. He's 165 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so
what kind of dog are you getting, Danica?
He's a blue heeler.
Is he blue tick or just blue heeler?
I think so. He's kind of he's a farm dog, so it's a God story. But there's somebody we met. She got a blue heeler puppy. They're from this farm out an hour from town, and each of the farmers had blue heelers, and they just had puppies together. And so
guess what? I'm telling you, I know those people, because my son